Hello, and good evening, and welcome to C3Arts Radio. Of course, this is your loyal host, Philip Harvey, coming live and direct to you from City College, New York. Of course, the college on the hill. And we are C3Arts Radio, the broadcast arm of the City College Center for the Arts. And we're here in September, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we have had a lot going on this summer. We haven't been in the studio quite as much, but that's all about to change as the calendar turns to fall. We have some excellent and great programming lined up for you when the whole team's going to be back around. Of course, I'm talking about Tony the Tiger Starrett, Nasser and Metcalf, and the rest of the crew will all be here in the fall for an action-packed and art-laden programming schedule. But of course, as the programming arm of the City College Center for the Arts, it is our primary responsibility to make sure that you are up and aware on what is happening here on the campus of City College, New York. And along with that, we also give you information about what's going on, not only in the rest of the city of New York, but also nationally and internationally. We try to leave nothing to spare, if you know what I mean. We are your home for arts, culture, entertainment, education, and also advocacy. That's right, we do it all here, C3Arts Radio. For all our longtime listeners, you know what we do here. And we are so happy that you are sticking with us. We are now into our third year doing C3Arts Radio here at WHCR 90.3 FM every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. And please know that you can also live stream us at WHCR.org. And, of course, listen to us at tunein.com, WHCR-FM. There's a lot going on, right? I hope you guys have missed me. We got a lot going on for you. I've been thinking about you all the time, and that's why we're going to kind of jump off what we call our fall schedule here. Now, we're not going to be changing any of the important things that we do, right? As I just outlined, of course. But there will be some changes to C3Arts Radio, okay, right? In the spirit of growth. Everything must grow. Everything must change. You guys didn't know I could sing, right? Yeah. Still don't know. But anyway. One thing you know is not going to change is our commitment to providing you with information on the arts and culture scene. And we always start right here at home. Now, very interesting programming coming up at City College Center for the Arts. We have an action-packed fall and winter schedule that is coming up. Now, we're just going to do this in a kind of linear fashion, right? Okay. So first of all, we have our next exhibition, art exhibition, which is going to be opening up in Aaron Davis Hall Gallery on September 12th. Now, this is just a little bit of information, because this is what we're getting into today. The exhibition is called Void of Death, and it's a solo exhibition of paintings by Julio Mejia. And we're going to talk with Julio today and get you caught up, for those of you who aren't familiar with the abstract artist, who truly has a very interesting background. And he's able to really synthesize all of these different influences into a wonderful kind of a body of abstract work. And we're going to get into that a lot as well. Also, it's going to be joined by Susan Luss, who is the curator of Void of Death. And it's a fantastic show. She's a fantastic artist in her own right as well. Now, the show is going to run from September 12th to November 27th, but we're going to be having the opening reception, okay? This is what we want you to definitely come out to, the opening reception, and get it all off with a bang, right? The opening reception is going to be Thursday, September 14th, 1 week from this Thursday, from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m., right? And we got a lot more coming on that as well, as we're going to have Julio and Susan here to speak with us today. Also, coming up, Monday, September 18th, we will have the first of a 3-part installment of a series of films, what we call the Classic Cuban Films. It is a program that we are currently doing along with who are we doing this with? Oh, the New Heritage Films and Harlemwood Film Festival, right? And the CCNY Department of Media and Communication Arts. So we have a kind of triumvirate. We're having a partnership here that we're going to bring a series of films that document this relationship between Havana and Harlem to some degree. This is kind of an ongoing dialogue and communication that we've been having. And this is the first of these series is going to take place Monday, September 18th, and then it's going to be followed up October 24th, and then November 14th. Right? The first of these films is called Memories of Underdevelopment. It was originally released in 1968, and it's going to be the first of our installment of films, but we have a lot more for you to grab onto, because along with this particular film series, there's also other programming going on around Harlem. And this conversation, this dialogue really started about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's really heating up. And really, if I say that it started 3 or 4 years ago, what I need to be saying is that it actually started about 60 years ago, okay? Even longer than that, perhaps about 70 years ago, where we had the transference of musicians, musical styles, culture, right? Havana to Harlem. And we are still having that dialogue today. Again, the first film of the 3-part series is going to be Memories of Underdevelopment. It's part of the Harlem Havana Music and Cultural Festival, and there's going to be a 3-part series here at Aaron Davis Hall, the first of which will take place on Monday, September 18th at 6:30 p.m., right? And we're doing this in partnership with New Heritage Films and the Harlemwood Film Festival. Also, City College's own Department of Media and Communication Arts. So, a lot going on. C3Arts Radio. You know we're going to give it to you straight, so stick with us, and we'll be right back.
Leave me so officer, let go me hand. You don't know me and you don't understand. You see me flashing a Chris Rental. So you claim that me a criminal. Rumors them spreading. Claim that I sense in me planting. But I'm an addy down in addy juggling. I feel rumors are gone. Rumors are gone. Keep it and just to nice up the place. Buy no liquor and bread off them face. Make man and man have money to spend. And all the youths them know me and them friend. And rumors them spread. Claim that I sense in me planting. But I'm an addy down in addy juggling. Rumors are gone. I pure rumors are gone. Rumors them spreading. Sense in me planting.
C3Arts Radio, and we are back right here, ladies and gentlemen, every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. right here, WHCR 90.3 FM, coming directly to you from the campus of City College, New York, of course, the college on the hill. We are the broadcast arm of the City College Center for the Arts. And today we're getting into one of our very special programs. As we say, we have a very, very busy fall schedule coming up. And today we have the first fantastic piece of programming on the list. And that, of course, is Void of Death, which is a solo exhibition by the Atlanta-based artist Julio Mejia. And Julio has what some might say, me included, a very, very phenomenal, interesting background. And he has a very special talent of synthesizing all of these different influences in his life onto his work, which is largely abstract and forms the basis of our artistic fall here at City College Center for the Arts. Now, the woman who has curated Julio's show is also with us. She's a fantastic artist in her own right. Her name is Miss Susan Luss, and she joins us here in the studio. How are you today, Susan?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Philip.
Absolutely. No problem. No problem. Very good for you to join us. And that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. We have even more. We actually have Julio on the line with us from Atlanta. How are you today, Julio?
Man, I'm doing great. I wish I was up there with you and Susan, though. It would be a little bit better.
No problem, no problem. I know we'll see you in a short time, actually, a short time. We will be having the opening reception on Thursday, September 14th, between 5:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. right here at Aaron Davis Hall. So that's what I kind of want to just jump into it right away. So, Susan, please tell us. I know that you've curated a number of shows now. What attracted you to working with Julio on this event?
Well, I think part of it lies in our connection, the way we first met, and we had met at artist presentation that he was presenting to a group that I was participating in, which is at the School of Visual Arts.
Okay.
And we made this connection right away. And then after that presentation, he was looking at my work, and we were kind of looking at his work on his phone. So there was just this immediate kind of personal connection. I think that's what brought us together.
I see. Now, first of all, Susan, I know you're originally from Texas, El Paso, if I'm correct.
I was born there, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope everything's well. And you were raised in Alabama as well.
Correct.
Now, Julio, you were originally born in New Orleans, even though I believe you're a dual citizen both in the United States and Peru, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. So do you think there's a sensibility? You say that there was something that you both kind of came together on. Is there a sensibility? Julio, I would, and we'll get into this in a moment, but Julio, I think that you represent really, in a lot of ways, the whole, even though you're of European and Latin heritage, your work and some of your sensibilities really represent the whole kind of Southern, South American hemisphere to some degree. Do you guys think that this is evident in both of your work, and maybe this kind of forms some of the basis that you forged this relationship upon? I'll let either one of you answer that. I'll kind of talk to the both of you at one time.
Julio, why don't you talk about that?
Absolutely. You know, there was a connection when I went to see Susan's studio at the School of Visual Arts. It impacted me in a very personal way, because every single thing that was on her installation at that moment, there was one installation that had various personal articles, and then of course it was her light installation, which spoke to me with the colors. And I believe in the South we have so many everything down here, and you know, I've never been to Texas, but I'm guessing something we had in common is everything's real personal. Right. At least for me in New Orleans, everything was personal. I was brought up in Gentilly East, which, went to McDonald 43. My neighborhood was, I don't know if the right word is eclectic, but we had every color person that lived on my street. I see. And everything since I was a little kid was very personal. My neighbors, the way they treated me, the way they taught me. I had a neighbor taught me how to fight. I think I was like 7 years old.
Is that right? 7 years old.
You know, New Orleans. That's what it's all about. That's how you make friends. You know? And that's where I think you're right. I think it had a lot of soul, her work. And you know, it took me a while to find somebody that had that work that was powerful enough to speak to me. And I just couldn't let that connection go. Right. I hope I answered that question.
No, absolutely. I think it's your answer too is very, very on point to what I've seen and what I kind of read into your background, Julio. It seems that it's rare that an artist can very succinctly kind of point out their influences, their personal influences, and what I see in your work is that through of course your visual art, but then also there's the relationship and the influence of tango. There's the also the wine, which I think has been a big a symbol of your upbringing as well. How do and the fact that to kind of tell your story through your visual art, you've basically made your own medium to help you express this. How do you synthesize all these approaches, all these influences into your work?
You know, like I think almost everyone, we started drawing at a very young age. I didn't speak till I was 4 years old, and they had took me to certain doctors and things of that nature. And one of the teachers, I don't know if it's preschool or kindergarten, I drew a kitten for my father, and she called my parents in and said, I've never seen anything like this. And at that time, I was already speaking through my expression, which was in that time the medium was drawing.
Right.
And what it was, what my parents think, because they were immigrants and we spoke Spanish in the house, and then at the school, and New Orleans dialect, so it's between Creole and, every single type of slang you can have. Mm-hmm. So as things progress with the years, one of the biggest influences for me to create this new language was when I saw my grandfather. My grandfather, I saw his last concert, mm-hmm. and what happened was, in my mind, it was like, how do I represent this feeling? Right. This feeling of pride, this feeling of knowing the struggles that him and my family has had. How do you put that in paint? Yeah. Do I draw it? Do I paint it figuratively? And that is pretty much what broke me into this new narrative, which is through abstraction. And it's almost like a signature. It's almost like I don't want to say a language or a writing, but and this is what I feel, I can't tell you exactly, but a lot of people that have seen my work immediately knows it's mine. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what color it is. It doesn't matter the size. It's almost like I'm putting what I see or what I feel within this new medium. And, that's how that came about. I just could not express it anymore through any more figurative work. Right. I hope that explained that. No, is that okay?
No, yeah, absolutely. So how... I read where your grandfather, some of the kind of energy and the preparation and the approach that he brought to his artistic form, which of course was the tango, and you took a lot from that. And I kind of want to build on that a little bit more. How are you in a sense interpreting what your grandfather was doing through the tango as you do through your visual medium?
Absolutely. And what he was a director, a bandonista, and a composer mm-hmm. of the Argentine tango. And if you take it a little bit further into the dance, mm-hmm. the actual dance is the most abstract dance that I've ever seen. Right. So they might have 2 or 3 commonalities, but the bottom line, you can dance a tango any way you feel, mm-hmm. as long as your partner feels safe with them in your arms. So when he wrote 850 tangos. He was born in 1911. He was through the whole golden years of tango. So when he started composing at a later age, he realized that his instrument, which was the bandoneon, could no longer express that sonoridad that he had or that he felt. Mm-hmm. So he actually had the chambers customized to fulfill those needs. And that was, again, another way of abstracting the instrument. So when I saw his last concert, he played by himself, even though there was a beautiful orchestra. The producer was Gustavo Santolaya, which is the producer of Brokeback Mountain and North Country, and wonderful yes. fellow.
Of course.
But that moment, I knew you have to push whatever medium you have if you're really going to have a vision and really try to get whatever is inside. In his case was the song, the romance, his life, the torture, or however you want to put it. And with me, I did it with the paint. I knew I had to push it further. I had to find the pigments within the paint, the oils within the paint. If the paint was maybe made by hand somewhere in Europe or South America, the United States, and find how I can even push it further. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the paint would say, you know what? I'm meant to do more. I'm not just a tube of aquamarine or whatever. It has to be pushed to what you feel.
Right. It has dimensions. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you can do anything with these products. I mean, you can take any kind of medium and push it so far that all of a sudden it almost becomes something separate than what I was created for.
Right. Absolutely. And there's even further than this, Julio, right? I know you've done some work for the U.S. Embassy in Lima in Peru, and you've spoken before, if I'm correct, that this as well has been a big influence in your work. And I was trying to figure out exactly how. Can you explain to us how that experience also speaks to what you are doing, what you are presenting now?
In the late 80s, early 90s, I worked through a period that Peru was going through a very devastating time. It was 2 decades of terrorism that caused 70,000 deaths. And at this time, I was working within the Department of Counterterrorism within the embassy, and we were attacked. I believe it was '93, and a couple blocks away from the embassy, which is the old embassy. Now there's a new building. You know, you were around these explosions. Sometimes you were within them, and at that moment, you know, it wasn't just a job. You were involved with the U.S. mission, and at the same time, you're involved with your own family, which is in Peru. So at that time, you know, I was, give you an example. My daughter, she was born during the evening when Channel 2 in Peru was car bombed. And it was a very destructive moment, and it was the first time that the embassy lines went out. So I was there maybe a good 20 hours. I could not get in touch with my family, and I could not leave my responsibilities with the U.S. mission. Well, sure enough, that night, my wife had went into labor. So the next morning, the whole city was in shutdown, and I went with a patrol unit to the hospital, and I found this out the next day, and they wouldn't let me in. So at that moment, I had to make a decision, like, you know, I have 2 guys with an assault weapons. What do I do? Right. Do I bully my way in like a good New Orleans guy, or do I go the diplomatic route? Well, thank goodness, you know, everything went well. But I guess what I'm saying is those moments I must have kept inside at that time. And for years, I was just a guy, you know, just doing a role. But then when I left Peru and I came back to the United States, I found a void. I mean, it was such a complete different experience. One time I saw a fellow bullying a fellow Latino, and I couldn't believe it. So, and I hope I could say this on the radio, I don't know, but I pulled him and his friend out of the car, you know, because in Peru you don't do that. You don't disrespect people like that, you know. Yeah. And the first thing that was done was, I'm going to call the police. And I found that so odd. How can you mistreat somebody? And then when somebody confronts you, the first thing you do is, I'm going to call the police. I had never heard of that before. Right. So for the next year or so, I was finding that the men that I knew in the early 80s in New Orleans wasn't the men that I was seeing around me anymore. Everything was like, I'm a big, strong guy, but it was all words. And so then I kind of went into an isolation period, trying to understand if there was something wrong with me, or am I missing something, or it was almost like I entered the twilight zone. And next thing you know, the things that I witnessed in the past started, I guess, indirectly started becoming a part of me, and I had to get through it. And it took a little longer than what I ever expected. And that's where the work started getting a little more, you know, when I would look at a canvas, no matter what the size, it looked like a beast to me. So I had to tame the beast. And next you know, the work started getting pushed further and further and further, even to the point where I used sanders through the paint because the painting would look, it looked lovely, you know, like a nice piece of work. Well, I had to destroy it to get what I was looking for at the time. And that's kind of how the embassy came into the work, you know, the large scale, the visceralness, you know, the large gestures. Yeah. And I think that period is what what brought those dimensions into the work.
Well, that's interesting because we think of your work, and I've seen it described in other areas as romantic in a sense, and that is a kind of romanticism there of kind of building this beautiful thing and then kind of tearing it down to some degree just to build it back up. It makes fantastic sense. I also, Julio, now I was listening to your description. Now I believe you spend quite a bit of time in the mountains in Georgia.
Yes.
And I was listening to your part of maybe not directly your reasoning, but some idea of a certain focus that you find there. And a lot of it was kind of climbing, kind of walking upward as opposed to walking on pavement and how it causes you to concentrate on your steps and on your movements and have greater focus. What is your experience there? You've lived in many different kind of environments. What has this brought to your life and to your work?
Well, like you said about the mountain, it is very interesting that you said that. When I left Peru, I was always on lookout mode. What's behind me, what's going on, why is this guy looking at me, why is there more foot traffic in this sidewalk than yesterday? But when I came back to the States, everything was like false security. Everything's calm. Everybody says hello. Supermarkets, everybody's real cool and everything.
Supermarkets, those are special, yeah.
I got the Piggly Wiggly up in the mountain. But then the mountain became the first night that I stayed there by myself after I built my home. And it's just a small home up there. I felt something on my leg. Now, keep in mind, it's pitch black. It's coyotes, there's black bears, there's hogs, there's owls that scare the hell out of me sometimes. And I didn't know what in the world was next to me. I could have been anything. And all it was the cutest Siberian Husky you'll ever see in your life. But right there, I realized, oh, God, I got to watch every step I do. So this weekend, I guess the copperheads are out. And I haven't really seen copperheads in the area in 10 years. But they're out for whatever reason. I'm going to blame it on the eclipse. Mm-hmm. But the mountain makes you always aware. Like if you're driving through those roads and for whatever reason you lose focus, you start daydreaming or romanticizing, you're going to go off a ledge. Now, keep in mind, it's not a huge mountain. It could be a hill in some places, mm-hmm. but it's still a few hundred feet straight down. So that keeps you on your toes and keeps you, always thinking.
Right.
I don't know if that helped any, but...
No, absolutely. All right. Well, I do want to bring Susan in here. So this brings us up to Void of Death, which is, of course, going to be opening September 12th and the opening reception September 14th. Now, Susan, what were your thoughts when this project was coming together? How were you looking at it? What kind of inspired you?
Partly what Julio was referring to in earlier part of his conversation had to do with I call it sort of like the reveal and the hide, the things that are kind of hidden from us that motivate us to have this desire to express ourselves. And Julio's, and again, the way we kind of came together and what he saw in my work, and sort of it evolved that we had this, even though it was a very different history, we had this desire in common to somehow reveal things, maybe to ourselves, but also in some ways to the public, and that comes through his art. Mm-hmm. And what's always interested me about artists in general, but in particular in Julio's work, is the gesture. And that's a little bit what I wrote, the statement about the show, and how that reveals, it reveals and it hides, because it's this constant movement and this gesture of making and pushing, as Julio says, this medium that he uses, and focusing on that. And what ends up happening is a history, in a way, mm-hmm. of a document even. For me, it's more than a painting. It's a history of Julio.
Right.
And it expresses his desires. So there's a little bit of a reveal, but there's always something a little unknown in there. And that's what I think is important in his work.
I see. How about you, Julio? What story are you telling this time for yourself?
The Void of Death really does come from the period at the U.S. Embassy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece there, and again, we talked about me not doing figurative too much anymore, but there is actually a piece that's very narrative. What I did was I find when I want to tell a story, I'll use materials. In this case, I used, it's not live ammo. I took parts of ammo and put them together as if they were live. You can't have gunpowder going into air freight.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went ahead and created a rust with the bullets, and I used charred milled bone to create that feeling of, I want to say that human feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So that represents the 70,000 that passed away. And if you look at it, it's almost like a scene of a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
It's what, I made it in a very dark studio. The environment around the studio was of that type of moment, and I used artifacts that I had brought over from one of the bombings. So you'll see a Peruvian license plate from the early 90s within the piece. There's a cufflink that was given to me during a 4th of July ambassador's dinner or ceremony at the time. So I put that cufflink within the piece. I was given a gift, a beautiful 1911 Colt 45. So I put the original clip in the piece. So everything that I do, to be fair to the actual piece, has to have something in mind that's very personal. So that piece, I believe, is the signature piece of the exhibit. Even though the exhibit is mostly paintings,
mm-hmm.
I wanted to have one narrative piece so you can feel what Void of Death is about.
Right. Sounds fantastic. Susan, did you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to point out, I don't know if anyone said the title, that's Memoria del Fuego, and that actually, we selected a very particular spot for that to hang within Aaron Davis Hall, and it's when you walk into the hall and you go up to the steps on the right, there's a brick wall, and it will be hanging at the top of those first set of steps. And what will happen, and this is very important, I think Julio and I discussed this, and I think he would agree, that there will be certain parts of the day, and in this case, I found out it's the evening,
mm-hmm.
which will be nice.
Absolutely.
The sun actually will cast its light on this piece at certain times of the day. So it brings kind of a new sort of light to it. Like Julio said, he made it in the dark, but now it's really bringing light to this narrative that he's talking about.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for everyone listening now, this is something you have to come out and see. I really want to thank Susan and Julio for joining us today. So once again, the exhibition is Void of Death. It is a solo exhibition by Julio Mejia, curated by Susan Luss, and it's going to be on display from September 12th to November 27th, but we really want you to come out on Thursday, September 14th. That's 1 week from this Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, for the opening reception from 5:30 to 9 p.m. Please go to citycollegecenterforthearts.org so you can make your reservation, RSVP. Come see us. Come join us. We'll all be there and check it out. Yeah. I really want to thank you guys for coming out. Thank you so much, Julio, for calling in from Atlanta, and Susan for joining us in the studio. And you come and say hello on Thursday, September 14th. So we'll be right back. Also, before I go, I do, if you need to keep up with Susan and Julio, there's a lot more to come. So you can go to SusanLuss.com. That's SusanLuss.com. And of course, Julio Mejia Art juliomejia.com. That's JuliomejIAART.com. Okay, so please keep up with Julio and Susan. There's a lot more to come. This is C3 Arts Radio. We'll be right back. C3Arts Radio, and we are back. So, I just love these discussions and conversations. I hope you do too. You can check us out here every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. right here at WHCR 93.FM. And you can always live stream us at WHCR.org. And as well, you can check us out on tunein.com, WHCR-FM. Now, one thing I haven't really gotten into is our social media, which I have to make you aware of, because the party doesn't stop here. It continues. It always continues, right? So what you should do is you should make a mark on your browser, whether on your phone, on your PC, on your laptop, and check us out at C3Arts Radio. That's Twitter and Instagram, C3Arts Radio. That's Facebook. And you can check out, of course, City College Center for the Art.org. And you can check out City College Center for the Art, not .org, but you can also check it out on Instagram as well as Twitter as well. So we'll be right back. C3Arts Radio.
Meet me at the corner. I'll be corner. Down your avenue, and I'll be patiently, waiting there for you. I said to tune in till the morning. Tune in your message stream, 'cause I like it like that. I like it like that. I like it like that, yeah. You know I like it like that, yeah. Tune in till the morning. Tune in your message stream. You do it to me nice, yeah. I'ma do it to me twice. I like it.
C3Arts Radio, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are always back. Now, I want to once again thank Julio, Mejia, and Susan Luss for coming in. Of course, they are the backbone of our fantastic programming. They're going to jump us off for the fall here at City College Center for the Arts. Aaron Davis Hall is going to be jumping fall and winter, I can assure you. Please go to citycollegecenterforthearts.org to get all of the information that you will need. Now, I just want to remind you, the show will open, of course, I'm talking about Void of Death, which is the solo show by Julio Mejia, and it's going to open September 12th. Okay, so that's 1 week from today, and it'll be up until November 27th, but we don't want you to wait that long. What we would like for you to do is come out 1 week from this Thursday, that is September 14th, from 5:30 to 9 p.m. and you'll be able to come to the opening reception and come say hello to Julio and Susan and myself and the rest of the gang here at City College Center for the Arts, and come say hello. All right, we really want to improve our relationship with the community, because that's what this is all about, right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, before I get out of here, I want to send my respects. You know how in every family there is someone who the people look up to for whatever reasons. Hopefully there are numerous people. But when you are a young boy, child, son, let's say, I'll use myself for the example. And there is, you're very fortunate when you have a male in the family who you can truly kind of model yourself after, truly look up to. For me, that was my uncle. His name was Donald Sykes. And Donald Sykes was the kind of guy that all young people should have somewhere in their lineage. Someone who is, first of all, an individual, someone who sees life in their own ways, someone who is always advocating for something positive, trying to make a continual positive impact on society, someone who knows how to have fun, and someone who, at the end of the day, after it's all over, you could look at his life and said, he did it right. And for me, it was Uncle Donald. So today I'm going to take us out of here with a tribute song to Uncle Donald. He was the one who really sparked my musical imagination. He was the one who sent me down the path of loving all cultural forms, but particularly jazz. So we're going to get out of here with the great Lee Morgan. The song is Terrible T. We'll see you next Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen.